is Leslie and my partner is Jacqueline. And today we will be talking about how why we believe that this fairy tale was negatively impacted. Okay. This is one of the versions that I want to discuss, which is by the Brothers Grimm. In this version, it starts off with her mother pricking her finger on a needle and blood dropping on the snow, and she liked the color so much she wished her daughter would be as white as snow and as red as blood, as black as ebony. We later learned that her mother died at childbirth and her father, the king, remarried 1 year later. The person that he remarried is now known as the Evil Queen, where she was obsessed with looks and had a magic mirror that would tell her she was the fairest of them all. But around 7 years old, that's what people estimate, Snow White was considered to be the fairest of them all, and the Evil Queen despised that. So she hired a huntsman that would go off to kill Snow White, and as proof, she asked for her to bring back her liver and her lungs, and that's what he went to go do. But as he found her, he felt really bad and didn't want Snow White to, be killed. So instead of killing her, there was a boar passing along, and he ended up bringing back the boar's liver and lungs and told Snow White to run off. She ran into the forest, and the hunter brought back the liver and the lungs to the Evil Queen, and the Evil Queen ate those body parts. Now, later on, we see that Snow White ended up finding a place for herself with the seven dwarfs, as seen in the photo. She goes in there, and they basically trade off, where she has a place to stay, and the seven dwarves have someone to keep the house tidy. And then we later learn she gets like tricked 3 times by the Evil Queen because the magic mirror basically like snitched them out. And those 3 ways was through sewing her body shut, poisoning the comb, and obviously the apple. All those times failed, so but the last time with apple, she ends up basically dead. The mirror doesn't tell the Evil Queen that she was alive, so the seven dwarfs felt bad that they had to dig her up into a hole. So what they ended up doing was keeping her in a glass box so everyone can admire her, or at least they can keep her safe. And that's what they did. They did a rotation each time of dwarfs taking care of her until a prince came along and asked to buy her. And obviously the dwarfs were a little like unsure what they should do, but eventually they gave in. And when they were picking her up to move her, the apple from her throat was coughed up and she awoke. Then the prince and her got married. As the Evil Queen was getting ready to go to this unknown wedding, she figured it out that it was Snow White. She was still alive. And at the party, when she arrived, they put like hot like shoes on her, but like I don't know, really really hot shoes on her, and they made her dance until she died. And that was the end of the story. So this is our second source of Snow White. This is where we see her animated. And a quick summary is jealous of Snow White's beauty, the Wicked Witch orders to murder her innocent stepdaughter, but later discovers that Snow White is alive and hiding in a cottage with 7 dwarfs. She disguised herself as a old woman and brought her a poisoned apple. Then she falls into a death-like sleep, and she can only be awoken by the prince's kiss. So that's our second source.
The Snow White live action film was released 2025 and was directed by Mark Webb. It surrounded the actress Rachel Zegler on her journey to go find her father. It was inspired by the 1812 Grimm's Brothers story and the 1937 Disney release. This film, however, has gained a bunch of controversy surrounding traditional accuracy. This leads us to our thesis. The 2025 live-action film of Snow White has sparked controversy amongst viewers because the actress Rachel Zegler did not fit the traditional accuracy. Showing diversity is important. However, when you force inclusivity onto a well-known film, it can lead to tokenism. This leads to our first point about character accuracy portrayal. Many people were shocked when they found out that the actress Rachel Zegler would be playing Snow White. The reason behind this is that in the Grimm storyline, it portrays Snow White to be as white as snow. And in the Disney film, it portrays Snow White as a fair, pale, rosy-cheeked, and black-haired girl. So, when the actress was revealed to be Rachel Zegler, many people felt that the accuracy was lost and that no longer matched the traditional portrayal. These versions were the foundation that shaped how people portrayed Snow White and how she inspired others. Beyond the selection of actresses, the actress's behavior has also sparked controversy. This leads us to our point number 2. Rachel Zegler has gone online and has many interviews discussing the 1937 Snow White film. She didn't like the romance and decided to reject it in her interviews. She wanted a more modern, feminist Snow White. These statements upset many people who were traditional fans. In a YouTube report made by news.com.au, highlights the backlash that she received. Many people were hurt by the tones that she used, and they perceived her disrespectful towards the original film. An abstract submitted by Brown University stated that many viewers felt that Disney altered the story to fit a more modern agenda. Because of this, there was widespread social media criticism regarding the actor, regarding the film itself, and regarding the actress's thoughts on the 1937 film. This led for many people to believe that they focus more on inclusivity rather than accuracy, which leads to tokenism. This matters because when the viewers don't feel comfortable with the actress herself because of her interviews, it can contradict the classic character that was portrayed in the 1812 and 1937 films. Although diversity does matter, they believe that films should be made with diversity and not change classic storylines. They don't want to feel like there is tokenism. Tokenism is forced inclusivity in films that focuses on the inclusivity rather than the actual film itself. They want to preserve cultural stories, and this leads to our counter argument.
So, for one of my counter arguments, I want to talk about Rachel Zegler. Obviously, she doesn't look like the character herself, but apart from that, I do want to talk about some of the qualities the actor did have, or controversies she had before that. So, her and her co-star did get into like a feud, basically rumored about Israel and Palestine, and a lot of people didn't really like that because her character, what she was currently going to be known for, was involving themselves in political things. So a lot of people didn't like that. And another thing was that she basically hated the movie Snow White and didn't understand her character. So in an interview, she stated that she was scared of them, scared of Snow White, and then just never picked it up again. She also wanted to have like this feminist take on it, but part of that was the writers. But she did push the agenda on people, which I guess. But a lot of people didn't really like that, and they didn't like how she described the character or the woman to be the actor of Snow White. A lot of people found this controversial, and I believe that they could have gone a different way if they wanted to be inclusive, mainly because instead of rewriting and changing a character, they could have actually included real life actors for the seven dwarfs. There isn't that many places that dwarf actors can apply to. Obviously, there are some, but it's not very common to see dwarf actors. And I believe that this was one of the movies that could have had given a lot of people, oh, not a lot, but seven more positions to people with dwarfism. And I don't think that was a good way to go about it because they could have been inclusive while keeping the same storyline and they wouldn't have had more controversies that came for them. I just believe that they could have gone in a different way instead of replacing stuff with C. We're finally at the end of our presentation, and I just wanted to say that I hope we got our point through on why we believe that Rachel Zegler was not a good cast for this. And I also hope that we showed you that society does change in many different ways. And I feel like one of the reasons that the story was mainly hated on was because the Brothers Grimm, also the Disney animated version, was really popularized. Although I do think that we should kind of focus more on skill rather than race and color and find proper castings for these movies that will reflect the best of the original character. Anyways, thank you for listening.